Before we begin, we have a program on everyone's table of what we're going to do. But before we get started, Dr. Stavisky wanted to have Jack Earhart come up to speak a little bit about how dentistry started. Dr. Earhart is the current chairman for the Pennsylvania State Board of Dentistry. So he's going to come up for a minute, speak a little bit about a pretty cool thing. It's pretty cool. He'll talk about it and then we'll get started on the program. So Dr. Jack Earhart.
Not a chance, Eli. Good evening. Can you hear me all right? I have to put my glasses on now, and I always went through my life thinking, I hope I never wear glasses, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because when someone asks me a question, I have no idea what the answer is. I can take my glasses off, set them down, rub my brows, and say, I don't know. It's a lot better than just saying, I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much for having me here tonight. Eli, thank you. I look around this room and during the cocktail hour, etc., and the dinner, and to use a dental term, this room is festooned with some of the most distinguished people in Lackawanna County and Pennsylvania. So it's a tribute to you, Eli, that so many people are here to honor you and give you the honor that you deserve. And it's certainly my pleasure and honor to be part of your evening tonight. I've known Eli probably for more than 40 years. And not just as fellow dentists, we've both been very active in organized dentistry. I'm proud to say we're both chairman of the State Board of Dentistry. And I'm also proud to say we played golf more than a few times, and I thought I had a student loan to pay off my student debts, but that was nothing compared to the loan that I had to pay Eli and Guido Bloriosi for the bets we had playing golf. So, I'm trying to work that out some way. I'm still paying on that, Eli, by the way. But throughout all these years, Eli and I have found ourselves allies in efforts to do what is really the best for dentistry, and ultimately what provides the best dental care for each and every one of our patients, to give them the care they deserve when they walk into our office, and they give us the trust. They trust us to do what is right. And Eli certainly has emphasized that throughout his entire practice. It's ironic that we are honoring Eli this year, and this year is the anniversary. It's the 150th anniversary of the Dental Code of Ethics. It's the longest existing code of ethics for any healthcare organization in the United States. And I have been really fortunate to interact with Eli and question him about the deliberations and what took place when they wrote that code of ethics, as Eli was a witness to all of it 150 years ago. Anyway, the committee has asked me, first and foremost, that I be brief. And secondly, that I review the history of dentistry in the United States. How interesting to you non-dentists. Anyway, so let's do it like this. I'll give a brief history of dentistry. So it started let's go back to 1840. And at that time, in 1840, dentistry was considered a trade. Many times and then in those years, dentists were not only dentists, but they were barbers. And I don't know if I'm certain you all do remember the old barber poles that had red and white stripes. And this is the truth. The color red on those poles represented the blood that was associated with dental surgery. In 1840, the first dental college, the Baltimore College, was established. At the same time, the first dental journal and the first National Dental Society was formed in 1840. In spite of this, during the next 40 years, there were no educational requirements necessary to practice dentistry. For 40 years, from 1840. Dentistry at that time was considered a trade, and most dentists learned their profession, their trade, through apprenticeships. That's only 100 and some years ago. I can't do the math. But in 1868, 3 states adopted state laws specifying specific educational requirements necessary to practice dentistry in those states. Then in 1869, Harvard University offered the first DMD degree. This was the first dental degree granted by an accredited university in the United States, 1869. Just as an aside, that was a DMD degree. A lot of us have DDS degrees. And I know I always thought DDS signified Doctor of Dental Surgery. In fact, DDS signified Doctor of Dental Science. It's basically an aside. But anyway, from 1872 until 1900, one by one, each state adopted its own particular dental laws. In 1905, a Dr. Albert Bone trained his nurse to perform the duties of a dental hygienist. And in 1914, he established the first dental hygiene school. 1914. We're young. Medicine had always considered dentistry as a medical specialty. Somewhere between 1900 and 1926, dentistry became an independent profession. The reason for this, generally accepted, was that dentistry was viewed as a surgical, hands-on profession, whereas most of medical care was non-surgical in nature. In 1926, Dr. William Geis set the standards for the dental profession and for dental licensure examinations in 1926. At that time, CODA, we all know the Council on Dental Accreditation, did not exist. But Dr. Geis created a process that was an educational product audit that evaluated dental education through independent third-party evaluations that he felt best protected the public. He was concerned about protecting the public, and he wanted to audit the quality of education and the practitioners who would treat the public. He was way ahead of his time. His assessment was created to assure the public that only qualified individuals were licensed to practice dentistry. At that time and for years afterwards, each state felt that its state-specific exam for licensure was the best indicator in assessing the applicant's abilities to practice safely in that state. Not only that, some states that had more than one dental school, some had 3 dental schools, actually offered 3 different examinations for dentists to get licensure based on how the state evaluated the quality of the education in that by each school. So there were A schools, B schools, and C schools. So they actually rated the quality of education, that you would all get a license, but based on the quality of your education, the license would be so amended. Things stayed that way until 1969, when 5 states in the northeast part of this country, including Pennsylvania, combined and formed the Northeast Regional Board. At that time, an applicant passing that one regional exam was eligible for licensure in all 5 participating states. This was a great step forward. The wheels for consistency in licensure were now set in motion. By the year 2000, there were 5 regional examination boards. Generally speaking, these boards administer an anonymous, independent third-party examination to test a candidate's critical skills by requiring that candidate to perform upon demand independently and without help. This is the only time in the practice of a dentist that your skills are tested. Unlike in the medical field, in hospitals where you're reaccredited, in dentistry we have one exam, your licensure exam. After that, your skills are never tested. This was Dr. Geis's goal, to evaluate. You know, some people question why there is an examination. Why there's an examination. I never heard in a malpractice defense suit that the defense was, well, you should see my other work. It's really good. That doesn't work. You need to be able to perform on demand, independently, and without help. So that's how it stands with NERB today. The Northeast Regional Board is now called the Dental Competency, the Committee for Dental Competency Assessment, and that's the largest recognized testing agency in dentistry today. The exam that the CDCA, formerly NERB, administers is created by ADEX. It's the American Board of Dental Examiners. And that examination for licensure is accepted in 47 states and 2 foreign countries. So it's very widely accepted and very uniform. And the goal, obviously, is to have all 50 states accept one licensure examination. Regardless of who it's administered by, it's very important that one examination is uniform throughout the country. And with our younger people today, our younger students, portability is a major issue. Unlike the people in my time, they may start someplace and want to move somewhere else, and having an exam that's accepted in all 50 states is very important. So, in a brief nutshell, as I was instructed, that's a basic history of dentistry in the United States. And I don't know if any of you watch PBS News, but it always ends, and I will end this to an extent, in there's more to the story. And if Eli had given me more time, I would give more to the story. But finally, let's get back to the Dental Code of Ethics. 150 years ago, Eli, you were there. You know what it was like. But it's a code that Eli has subscribed to his entire life, and his entire professional career. And I know that every dentist in this room subscribes to that code as well. I just think it's important to mention what that code of ethics includes. Number 1, patients first. Number 2, respect for everyone. Number 3, do no harm. Number 4, provide a quality service. Number 5, be truthful. And number 6, be fair. I'm certain that each one of you dentists here tonight follow those standards that were established 150 years ago, but are still so important today. They're relevant today in our offices and in our practices. And it's important that we carry that tradition forward. Eli, best that life has to offer to you. You certainly have earned every recognition that you get tonight. You've inspired so many people to follow you into this career. In my opinion, that's the highest compliment anyone can pay you. Your example has inspired others to follow in your footsteps. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you. I hope I was brief enough. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Dr. Earhart. Our next speaker is someone who I know very well. He was a partner of mine before he retired to the good life down in Florida. As you can see, he's very tan when he comes up here, so you'll see he's enjoying life very much. Al G. Lorenzi has worked with Dr. Stavisky, or had worked with him for many years. They were partners for a very, very, very long time. And I think it wouldn't be appropriate to have a place to honor Al, or honor Eli without Al speaking. So our next speaker is Dr. Al G. Lorenzi.
Thank you, Justin. 2 quick observations before I start. People were asking me tonight, why do I have my little lapel pins on? And they are 2 things I'm very proud of. One is the lifetime membership in the ADA, and the other one's a lifetime membership in the American Association of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons, which have given me a wonderful life, as well as Eli. And I was thinking of calling Eli and asking him to wear his pins. Then I said, wait a minute, I better not. Because if he does, it'll be like this. He'll be like a Russian general on the Kremlin wall going, you know, he'll have up and down his whole jacket. And the second observation, Linda Himmelberg. You notice something about the program? You and I are the bookends. Everybody in between is important. What's the matter? Normally when I speak, I like to speak extemporaneously. But tonight I have so many things I want to make sure I do not neglect to mention about Eli. Because it truly is an honor and a privilege to be speaking to all of you on this occasion, honoring my dear friend Eli. And this is for his long, dedicated, and illustrious career in dentistry and his unfailing devotion to the well-being of the people of the state of Pennsylvania, their dental health, and their needs. Eli and I have known each other since 1975, when I joined the practice with Mike Smyrny and Eli. We were partners for 30 years. And I believe I couldn't have had a better partner than Eli. We often disagreed on many things, both professional and personal or business, but I could always say he always was willing to listen to my concerns, my suggestions, and any opinions that I had. And we always found a solution to any dilemma, whether it was professional or personal or business. Our relationship was like a marriage. Very much so, for 30 years, my God. It was based on, though, mutual respect and willingness to compromise. That's so important, as we all know, in anything we do in our life. One place, though, that he did not compromise was his love of family and his ethics. He is supremely devoted to his wonderful family and has been the rock of this family through both good and bad and sad times. He will do anything for them without hesitation, and I mean that sincerely. He exhibited great strength through illness and tragedy, and pride and joy in good times. I memorized this all, Eli, but I want to make sure I get every word in. His first love has always been his family and his faith, without exception. His other love is dentistry. It gave him a wonderful professional life that gave him the means to give Paula and their wonderful daughters a wonderful, loving, and stable life at home. Because of dentistry, it afforded him the opportunity to educate his daughters, at the highest possible level and give them a great profession, that is dentistry. It was his goal always, that's why he did what he did all these years with dentistry, to give back to dentistry for all that it gave to him. He never stopped working to ensure dentistry in Pennsylvania was maintained at the highest ethical level to protect the patients and their health. This is shown by the many, many positions and honors given to him over the years. They are too numerous to list here. One I do want to mention, though, is his award that his alma mater, Lycoming College, gave him, that awarded it to him in 2010. It was the Angela R. Kyle Award, and I quote, "Given for a lifetime of service to humanity and whose life exemplifies those qualities encouraged by Lycoming College and by its predecessor institutions." This says who he is. That's all there is to it. I have observed Eli in many roles, but the one which is most profound and enduring for me is his tenure on the State Dental Board, as Jack said. He was there from 1981 to 1984, and he was the chairman from 84 to 94, which is the longest running term of anybody in the history of the state of Pennsylvania. The dedication and desire to protect the dental patient was astounding, and I saw this every day in our office as we talked over certain issues. He'd always bounce them off me. I don't know if he liked what I always had to say, but he always bounced them off me. He often faced criticism for his positions on various topics and issues from those with private agendas, and we all know there's many like that. He would listen, but not be swayed by anything or anyone whom he felt did not have the welfare of the patients of Pennsylvania as the paramount factor and the best interest of them. Being an Italian, some say Italians are testadora, which means hard-headed. Well, if we are hard-headed, we're as hard as marble. But the Russian board president was granite. He did not give in. Right, Tanya? But in other words, he said, "Don't tell me, show me." And that's how he always did. He wouldn't be swayed by somebody with a special interest. It was always and completely the patient, not the practice, the patient. I would like to highlight one other honor he received because it shows he is not only a man and a dentist, but a person of high integrity and faith. In 2014, St. Tikhon's Theological Seminary awarded Eli a Doctor of Humane Letters for his devotion to his Russian Orthodox faith and his untiring efforts to stabilize and advance the educational experiences of the seminarians at St. Tikhon's to help strengthen their faith and their purpose in life. I recently had the honor and privilege to speak at this very podium to the members of UNICO, an Italian-American organization which I'm very proud to belong to. As we concluded my talk, I quoted one of my favorite poets, Henry David Thoreau. It best described to me the essence of UNICO. I use it here again because I truly believe this describes my good friend Eli. It describes how he cares for and treats other human beings. And I quote Henry David Thoreau, "The most I can do for my friend is simply be his friend." End quote. It is a profound yet simple statement. It sums up his faith, his ethics, and his humanity. It is my dear friend, Eli. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Our next speaker is a very good friend of Eli's. When I asked the judge to speak tonight, he said he doesn't know in his life if he has a better friend than Eli. And after having many conversations with Dr. Stavisky, as I have, he feels the same way. So our next speaker is Judge Rich Caputo. Judge.
I don't have a better friend than Eli. I thought about this, and I met Eli in 1965 or 6, and he had some damage to his, we were both in the Air Force, that's where I met him, in Plattsburgh, New York. He had some damage to his furniture when he moved, and he related the story that he had been to the Human Resources office called Personnel, and they wanted his birth certificate, and he said, Angelo Brudico has it. And it meant nothing to me, and obviously nothing to the personnel people. For those of you who don't know who Angelo Brudico was, he was someone from Old Forge that Eli knew. He gave his birth certificate to him when he was in Little League. That was my introduction to Eli. You know, I thought about this for a while, and it said if Eli could have a fantasy speech, a fantasy day, which he could call his greatest day, it would go something like this. He would get up in the morning and he would go to the ballpark in the World Series and watch his beloved Red Sox win the World Series. Sorry, Dick. And in the afternoon, he would go and watch his beloved Eagles win the Super Bowl. And that evening, he would attend a dinner at which the principal speaker was the founder of dentistry, Pierre Fouchard. And as Dr. Fouchard was being introduced, the crowd stood up and said, "We don't want Fouchard, we want Stavisky." Eli is probably the personification of the American dream. You know, he did not speak English until after he was 7 years old. He spoke Russian until he was 7 years old. He went on to get his own education in public school, and then he went to Lycoming College, where he worked his way through school by working at places like the Scranton Country Club and Skytop Lodge. And after that, he went to dental school, and then he served his country in the United States Air Force for 2 years. After that, he went back to school and became an oral surgeon and embarked on a career that you all know about, all of you who are here, because that's why we're all here, because of his wonderful career. He truly does personify that anything can be done if you put your mind to it in this country, and if you live to your capabilities, and which is one of the values that Eli has espoused and instilled in his children. And Al Gilorenzi mentioned the fact that they've all attained careers and education prior to that of the highest order, and that's one of Eli's values. I think about Eli, and I think about the things that are important. I'll tell a couple of little stories later, but just to say a few things about family. And I know Al touched on this, but truly Eli's life can be categorized in terms of, other than his profession, family, friends, faith, values. You know, his family, I've watched his family, and I watched them grow, and I watched the love and affection and respect they all had for one another. I watched him be the caretaker for his elderly parents. And I can remember the absolute joy he got out of the fact that he bought his father a pickup truck, and his father enjoyed it beyond belief, and that just made Eli happy. He didn't talk about it, but you knew that he was really gratified that he had done something nice for his dad. You don't, those things you see, you don't talk about them, but that's Eli. We also, he also fancies himself, as you well know, somewhat of an autocrat. Al's mentioned that in terms of stubbornness. And he thought he was the patriarch of his family, which he was. But I watched how Paula and the girls kind of decided what was going to be done, and then he kind of went along with it and took credit for the idea. So much for autocracy. And as Al noted, and I don't want to dwell on this, they suffered terrible pain with the loss of their beloved child, Natasha. The family provided the support needed to overcome that tragedy. One of the things that I think about when I think of their family is we were invited to Christmas Eve. I don't know if you know much about this, I didn't, but Russian tradition holds that Christmas Eve dinner is a special thing. It's true in Italian culture as well, but in Russian culture, there are 3 soups, there's seafood, and I can't remember the other things. I was so impressed with the maintenance of the tradition, not just with this generation, but with the younger generation and the youngsters. Everybody to a person. Eli's sister Jean and Hugo were there, all the children, the extended family. We were invited. I was so honored to be there and to watch this. And at the conclusion of the meal, the patriarch of the family, Eli, gives a state of the family address. Talks about all the occurrences that occurred in the preceding year. And it's quite a thing, and something I think we all ought to observe, because there's nothing quite like this in terms of solidifying the sense of family and loyalty among the folks who have common blood. Not only that, but to have been folded in as a friend was a great honor to Rosemary and me. Paula is Eli's greatest fan. She's his best friend, confident, and she has done nothing but support him in his career and gives credence to that old saying that behind every great man, there's a great woman. Friends. You know, Eli's got friends for a lifetime. And one of the reasons that he does, it's been said that friendship is a responsibility, not an opportunity. And Eli typifies that to a T. I can remember him when I first met him, and years later, he had a friend in Old Forge named Brown. His name was something else. It wasn't Brown. It was Popovich or something like that. Am I close? All right. What was that? There it is. Anyhow, he was Eli's friend, and Eli talked about him, and he was his friend from childhood. He made friends in dental school. A fellow named Stone. Am I right? And he's talked about him, and here I think he's here tonight. Yep. And in Plattsburgh, he made friends. Here's one of them. And another fellow, Jack Winters, who was going to come, but unfortunately had some medical problems and couldn't make it. And of course, all of his Scranton friends, you all know who you are, and you're all here. All his golfing buddies, Dick and Joe and Skippy and Guido and Angelo, They've had some good times, and we've had some good times. So when Eli calls you a friend, you have a gift. I can tell you that. And I am honored to have had that gift for some 50 years. Eli's also, as Al pointed out, and I unfortunately had included this in my presentation, a man of faith. He's been involved with St. Tikhon's for some 34 years and served as their vice chair for some 4 years. He was on the board of directors for 32 years. As Al pointed out, he got an honorary degree. So Eli's faith is an integral part of his life. He doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He just goes about it quietly, but it is part of him. Eli's values. Eli's honest. Eli is loyal. He's compassionate. He believes in the pursuit of excellence and getting the most out of your abilities and your capabilities. He's also charitable, not only with money, but with his time. He's mentored so many young people in the field of dentistry. And I know I used to go to his office, and there would always be interns working and people that he supported for dental school and worked hard to get them into dental school and followed their careers. And some of them came to work with him and he and Al in their firm. I guess you should say practice. Eli has a great sense of humor, not displayed readily. It's kind of subtle and kind of witty. For example, I remember reading an article that was in one of the dental journals years ago. It was an article, as you would imagine, it was very favorable to Eli and kind of honored him. And at the conclusion it said, and Eli resides with his wife and 3 children in Clark Summit, a suburb of Old Forge. There's another story that I will tell you, and that is that Eli and I don't think I was there. I wasn't there. But Eli went to a baseball game at the end of the season in New York. The Detroit Tigers were playing, and Eli was going to take Dick Trzaskowski home to Pennsylvania. And he was seated in the section with the wives of the baseball players. And one of the wives of the baseball players was Nancy Lopez, the golfer. She was married to one of the Tigers at that time. And someone introduced Eli to her. And she said hello, and Eli said hello. And then Eli said to her, "You know, I'm surprised you don't know my name, being that you're involved in golf." And she kind of looked at him and said, I made a mistake here. Well, I'm so sorry. How should I know your name? He said, I won the 5th flight at the Scranton member guest. And then the last story I'll tell you, I heard last night because our friend Jack Winters called me to tell me that he wasn't coming. It seems as Eli and Jack were skiing, and Eli had not skied before. It was their first outing. And they were going up one of these rope toes or J-bars, and they both fell. And that was all right. They got up and they got themselves straightened out, and they somehow worked their way down the hill, and they went up again. And this time they fell, I guess, closer to the top, and the attendant said, "Oh, you're all right?" "Yeah, I'm all right. We're all right." "Is this your first time?" And Eli said, "No, it's our second." But that's Eli. That's his sense of humor and his wit, and it's endearing. I'm going to close with a quote that I don't know whose it is, but it goes like this. It's very short. It said, "He who has done his best in his own time has lived for all times. That's Eli. And I'll close with one thing that he taught me in Australia.
Thank you, Judge. Taller than me. So, our next speaker is Father Michael DeHulik. Father Michael started teaching at St. Tikhon Seminary in 1993, and he was promoted to dean in 2002, a position that he served until 2013. He's currently a rector at the seminary, along with being Bishop of New York and New Jersey. Everybody in this room knows how special St. Tikhon's is to Dr. Stavisky and his entire family, and it's an honor and a privilege to have Archbishop here today. So, Archbishop.
Good evening. It's a great joy to be an honor to be in this company with such distinguished members of the dental, medical, legal professions. It's a tribute to the person we honor that you drew such an illustrious crowd of friends. We're here today, the Scranton District Dental Society is here today to entertain and honor and express their love to a dentist. Someone who has achieved excellence and distinction as a scholar and a practitioner, a mentor and a leader in this field. And so we're here to honor a professional, but I'm here to pay tribute to a person. Simply to a person. Dr. Eli, as you've heard, is a man of great faith, and our faith teaches that we are called not merely to be individuals who seek after our own passions and prestige and possessions and glory. We're called rather to be persons, defined by the relationships we cultivate with God and with the other persons whom God guides into our lives. To grow as a person is to become truly human. It is this human side, humanitarian side of Dr. Eli that I want to reflect on. Some of you are here as his partners and co-workers, his colleagues and his peers. Many of you have been mentored by him, so you know what I'm talking about. You're blessed to have a relationship with this incredible man. I share that commonality with you. Dr. Eli served on the Board of Trustees of St. Tikhon Seminary, including his time now as a Director Emeritus for 35 years. That is a longer service than any other board member in the 8 decades of history the school has had. And they include the tenures that I served as Dean and my tenure as Rector. And so I have had innumerable opportunities to observe and to admire the faith, the integrity, the standards, and the expectations, and the Christian love of this man. I met his sister today for the first time, and I asked her what kind of brother he was. Now, if the tables were reversed and Dr. Eli asked my sister what kind of brother I was, you would hear horror stories that would make you wonder how I ever became a priest. But his sister said he was a good brother, a really good brother. And she only wished that their mother and father could be here to celebrate this day with her brother. Fatherhood is, of course, one of the most sacred relationships with which God may entrust a man. Many times doctors are so busy and so involved in their practice, in their role as professors or teachers in colleges, in their membership in the professional boards and associations pertinent to their specialty, they often don't have enough time for their families. But obviously Dr. Eli did, because all three of his daughters were so impressed with his work that they followed in his footsteps. All of them became dentists. They could have chosen different fields. The girls that are here today, they majored in Russian studies, and they were athletes in school. They might have been diplomats or translators, or today they could be in the finals of the US Open, maybe. But instead they chose to be dentists like their father. They saw something, they learned something from the experience of watching a hero. Andrew and Alexander and Ryan and Kaylin and Chloe. I want to tell you that you have incredible mothers because of your incredible grandfather and grandmother. Dr. Eli would not be the kind of father or the kind of person that he was for the past many years. He couldn't be the fullness of the person God had grown him to be if he didn't have Paula, his partner of 54 years. His bride encouraged him in the early days of his education and career. She carried the weight of family life during those moments and seasons when the demands of his profession were particularly great. She was and is a dazzling beauty at his side for those innumerable events when they had to smile and shake hands and be the social butterflies. And they held their hands together in the long dark nights of their daughter's disease and passing, and in the seasons of grief since they gave their precious child over to the hands of their loving Lord. As much as this night may be about Dr. Eli, it is a testament just as much to the love and the character of his wife Paula, his helpmate in marriage, and his partner in life. I told you I've had experience personally with Dr. Eli. He was on the board of trustees and responsible for hiring me to teach at St. Tikhon's a quarter of a century ago. The judge talked about his toughness. I think he used the word autocrat. I knew that in a little sense. I came to St. Tikhon's with years of experience, and Dr. Eli and the board said, you need to go to business school to learn how to run a seminary. I didn't like that idea too much. But I'm glad he stuck to his guns. It was his high standards that made me do the pull-ups necessary to achieve first getting hired and then sustaining the school and growing it. I probably wouldn't be a bishop or an archbishop today if it weren't for those standards and that insistence on doing those pull-ups. In my tenure, he was the liaison for faculty and administration. He handled the difficult and often competing issues and needs of a brilliant but human faculty, nurturing and maintaining those human relationships as a skilled diplomat and a venerable elder brother in the faith. He was a visionary and benefactor who became part of making real the visions he promoted in the faith, in the church, and in our seminary. Many of our seminary students are married men, and they relocate to South Canaan with their families at great expense to pursue 3 or 4 more years of theological education, and they struggle to secure and afford housing close to the campus. So when Dr. Eli realized the need, he championed on-campus married student housing. His efforts as a benefactor went much further, though. When he had part ownership of a restaurant, he closed it 1 day a year to regular business and opened it instead as a charity fundraiser, with the proceeds going to benefit the future priests of the church. And as he always did, he provided dental services for seminarians who couldn't afford them, for their children who needed them, and for students that we had taken in from countries overseas that didn't have seminaries, like at one time communist Eastern Europe, Africa, and Asia. He did it with great love. Now, while the character of a person is revealed in part by his response to the call for charity, that character is truly revealed in full in the face of tragedy. There are few who would argue that there is no greater tragedy which two parents can face than the loss of their child. Their daughter, Dr. Natasha, fought 11 months against colon cancer. She actually got the diagnosis just before her pediatric dental boards. Instead of giving up hope and falling apart, she valiantly fought the good fight against that cancer, inspired by her faith and hope, instilled in her by her parents. And she continued to study for those boards, preparing with the hope that she would be able to resume her career and keep the standards of the dentistry board, those standards of excellence that were instilled in her by her father. When at the end of that 11th month battle she was taken from them, instead of thinking only about themselves as grieving parents and drawing inward in the magnitude of the pain of their loss, Dr. Eli and Paula thought also of a tribute to her. And in so doing, they reached outward. They did not give up the faith and the hope they had inspired her with. Instead, they went on to do great things. The world knows, and you know, that Dr. Eli and Paula and their family worked to make possible the pediatric dental clinic established in memory of Dr. Natasha at the Cornbrook School of Dentistry at Temple University. But what you might not know, because they're humble, is that Dr. Eli and Paula have provided for the children of other parents by creating the Dr. Natasha Stavisky Memorial Scholarship, which enables students to come to St. Econ Seminary without burdening themselves or their parents financially. We are the beneficiary of that faith and hope and love and excellence, etc., etc., etc. You've heard from two great speakers already who provided you with outstanding quotes that summarize the man we honor today. You have to forgive my unoriginality. I teach Scripture. So I will use the quote from St. Paul. We recently witnessed for 2 weeks the Summer Olympics. Long before they were on NBC, They took place in Greece many centuries before. And in his letter to Timothy, St. Paul uses the example of the Olympic runner running the race of life, the good life, the life of faith, the life of salvation. He encourages him to run as hard as he can, as fast as he can, for as long as he can, to win his leg of the relay race for all people of faith, and one day to receive in heaven the crown of victory. Dr. Eli, there is no bronze or gold or silver medal to give you. But hopefully, if there were, it would be diamond, to honor you for running so well the race as a husband and a father and a grandfather, a dentist and a mentor, a humanitarian and a benefactor. You have run the race as hard as you could, as fast as you could, for as long as God has given you. May you continue to serve him with excellence. And may all of us who are beneficiaries of your love and kindness, your brilliance and your humbleness, continue to bask in the glory of your friendship and your love. It is our tradition in the Orthodox faith to mark a celebration such as this with a prayer for the souls of the departed and for the health and salvation of the living. And so, for their beloved daughter Natasha, we pray, give rest eternal in blessed repose with the saints, O Lord, to the soul of thy handmaid, the ever to be remembered Dr. Natasha, who has fallen asleep. Make her memory to be eternal. Vechnaya Pamyat. And for Dr. Eli and Paula and his family, we pray. Grant, O Lord, a prosperous and peaceful life, good health and salvation, visitation, good hastening in all things to thy servants, Dr. Eli and Paula, their children in marriage, Dr. Tanya and Dan, and Dr. Elena and Mark, and their grandchildren, Andrew and Alexander, Ryan and Caitlin and Chloe, and all those who have gathered here as their friends, colleagues, and protect and preserve them for many blessed years. Nagaya Yata. Thank you. God bless you. God ever keep you. God ever love you.
Thank you, Archbishop. Our next speaker is Dr. Ahmed Ismail. He is the current dean of the Kornberg School of Dentistry at Temple University. He has held that post since October of 2008. Since that time, he's overseen the dental school undergo significant advancements in the pre-clinic and the treatment clinic, significant changes since I was there, and I graduated in 2006. So, no offense to the Penn or other students in the world in the room, I firmly believe that he is the dean of the best dental school in the country. So, without further ado, Dr. Ahmed Ismail.
Well, thank you, Justin, and Bishop, thank you very much. It's very hard to follow you in your speech. I would like to thank Eli for asking me to be today to speak in this celebration. As you heard Justin say, I have been a dean since October 13, 2008. One of the first people I met was Eli, a gentleman, a reflective listener, and I very quickly understood that his heart is at Temple. And I'm sure that how many Temple graduates are here, by the way? So there's about maybe 30 graduates. A lot of them were influenced by Eli and his influence. And he has his own pre-doc program here, trying to recruit students for dentistry at Temple. On behalf of Temple University leadership, Temple School of Dentistry, the Board of Visitors, the alumni, 6,000 of them, and students, we thank Eli for his contributions to the dental school throughout the history of the last, maybe since you've been Board of Visitor member for over almost 2 decades. And Eli has been a Board of Visitor, on the Board of Visitors since I arrived in 2008 with me in this new phase of building. And he has witnessed the change that happened in the school and based the physical change and also the operational change. And I travel a lot and I see a lot of dental schools, and I can attest that Temple is one of the best dental schools. So Justin, you're right. We still graduate very high quality dentists. We are progressing at a different pace for the future of dental education. And we're being recognized for that, though it's not publicized, but some people come to see how we do things. When I met Eli and the family, I was impressed by the warmth. I'm not from Pennsylvania, as you can see. I'm not from here. I just moved 8 years ago. But they embraced me as a member of their family, as a member of this community of the dental education at Temple. If there are words, and I have only few words to say, because they said say few words, is that Eli is a man like no other I have found in his graciousness. He's a listener. He reflects. He doesn't want to talk just for the sake of talking. He has a point to say based upon experience and knowledge. I would call that he is the dentist of dentists in the way I see him. He's a gentleman like no other. And he's a role model for all dentists and for all dental students, and also for alumni in terms of how they engage with the dental school. Has always been proud of the dental school. Now he graduated in 65. 65 is the year after Dean Timmons left. He left in 64. And between 65 until some 2 decades, we were going into circles. Temple was losing its direction. And Eli stood there. He continued involved with the school all that time. So I want to thank you, Eli, for what you have done for Temple, for dental education, for the profession of dentistry, and I hope to see you forever working with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. In case there was any question, he's the dean of the best dental school in the country. I don't know if I stated that before. So next is Camille Cherry. She's the current CEO of the PDA. As anyone knows, Dr. Stavisky is an advocate of dental care, and the PDA exemplifies that. So she advocates greatly for all dentists, as he did throughout his entire life, and we're very happy that she's here today. Camille.
Wow. First of all, I'm very honored to have been asked to say a few remarks in typical Dr. Eli style. When he asked me to come and be part of this, he said, a couple people from Scranton Dental are honoring me, and I'd like you just to come and say a few words, and it'll just be a small gathering. And wow. Well, as you know, I'm CEO of Pennsylvania Dental Association, and by the time I was hired by PDA in 1994, the name of Dr. Eli Stavisky was already legendary. So it was one of the names that I first heard in my early tenure at Pennsylvania Dental. I'm a lawyer by trade. I knew nothing about dentistry before I came on board here, so I had a lot to learn about the profession and a lot to learn about just the character of the dentists who serve in that profession. As I said, his name was already legendary, and all I ever heard from the PDA leadership who spoke about him was words spoken with great respect and great reverence, not only for the man that he was, but also for the contributions that he had made already by that point. Notably, certainly, his impact and contributions to organized dentistry, his service to his profession, not only with organized dentistry, but also in his service on the State Board of Dentistry. Not only for that, but most importantly, as you've all heard, for the character of the man that is Dr. Eli. Very well respected among his colleagues. So my first impression when I first met Dr. Eli was, wow, this is a man who truly is dedicated to his profession, who's an advocate. More importantly to me was the very distinct feeling that Eli looked at his job, the job of dentistry, as a lot more than just his profession. It was more for him a sacred calling and a passion. I think the fiber of Eli's passion has very clearly been woven into the fabric of his life. Obviously, as we've all heard, serving as a wonderful role example and imbuing in his family the same passion for dentistry, not only in his daughters, all of whom followed in his footsteps, but also with Paula. She carried that passion forward as well through family life. She nurtured the passion in all of the dentists of the Stavisky family, and the influence that that whole family has had on dentistry, not only for their advocacy for the profession through Eli and his daughters and Paula, but that influence and impact also extends to future dentists, as we all know, through the incredible contributions that this family have made, the sacrifices that they've made, all in the name of their beloved Natasha, ensuring that future dentists will also share the same passion that Eli has exemplified. As I got to work with Eli, as he served on the board during my tenure, I got to see that passion in advocacy myself. As has already been mentioned, Eli didn't speak a whole lot around the board, but when he did, it was clear that the other colleagues sat up and listened and really took stock of what he was saying. His passion for the profession, his calling, was very, very evident even around the leadership of the Pennsylvania Dental Association. As I got to work with and know Eli, I personally got to experience firsthand the whole Stavisky family and the warmth and all that you've heard about tonight, and most of you know also personally. I have played a very, very small role in dentistry as the executive director initially and now the CEO of Pennsylvania Dental Association. But whenever there was anything happening in 3rd District, Eli was always one of the first to call me, to welcome me, to say, what are you doing when you get into town the night before? Let me have dinner with you. Well, I thought, okay, we're going to have a nice dinner at some restaurant, and it'll be nice. He'll pick me up, drop me off. Oh, no, not Eli. Eli and Paula opened their home and their hearts and invited me in. And we shared stories about baseball, about religion, Bishop and Father, family traditions, grandchildren. We've shared cheesecake recipes with Paula. So the Stavisky family has done more than just been a part of my dentistry life. They have welcomed me into their hearts and their families. So to Eli and Paula and the entire Stavisky family, on behalf of not only PDA, but me personally, I am very, very honored to have been included as a very small thread in the very rich tapestry of your life, so thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Our next speaker is Dr. Linda Himmelberger. Like Dr. E, she devoted a lot of her time in her life to organized dentistry. She was past president of the PDA. She also served on the Pennsylvania State Board of Dentistry. And she's currently running for 3rd District ADA trustee in 2017. So, Dr. Himmelberger, thank you.
Dear colleagues, friends, our honored guest and his family, what a grand and glorious occasion. A well-deserved celebration for a man I feel privileged to call friend. Several months ago, when Eli called me to ask if I would speak this evening, he suggested that I could touch on our shared involvement in a number of organizations. The Pennsylvania State Board of Dentistry, the Northeast Regional Board, NERB, which is now called the CDCA, the Commission on Dental Competency Assessment. We've served together on the American College of Dentists, and last but not least, the PDA Board of Trustees. As I reflected on his request, I began thinking about what his involvement has meant to the organizations, the profession, and to us, his many friends and colleagues. Looking back over his stellar and selfless career, I believe that the attributes and the actions which he has brought to each are threefold. And those who've come before me at this day as tonight have also touched on a number of these things. First, integrity. No matter what the organization or the situation, Eli always asks the question, what is the right thing to do? Grounding the discussions in the framework of fairness, honesty, and integrity. When I first joined Eli on the State Board of Dentistry, he had already been the chairperson for a number of years. The State Board and the PDA were embroiled in a dispute over the use of EFTAs, their scope of practice, how they should be educated, and ultimately licensed or regulated by the state. The use of EFTAs had sprung up as a grassroots initiative, and their scope and training was not defined nor regulated. Throughout the, at times, heated debates, Eli continued to ask, what is the right thing to do for the EFTAs, for the dentists, and for the public? And more recently, as the Northeast Regional Board was debating the expansion of the testing services to Jamaica, Eli continued to ask, is it the right thing to do for the agency, for the profession, and for the community? The second attribute that Eli brought is a keen intellect. When I mentioned to Herb Ray, the current PDA president, that I was going to be speaking at this event, he smiled and said that while Eli was not the first person to speak to an issue during their tenure on the PDA Board of Trustees, or the most vociferous, his comments always brought clarity to a discussion, showing a depth of understanding and knowledge that few others possessed. When Eli speaks, everyone listens. And I know that any time I've had the opportunity to discuss, argue, debate an issue with Eli, I had better be prepared, because he always is. And the third attribute that Eli brings to every organization in which he has played a part is a kind and generous heart. As I said earlier, I joined the State Dental Board at a time of great controversy. I was the PDA approved appointee. Eli could have greeted me as the enemy. Instead, he greeted me warmly and welcomed me to the table. At a time when there were very few women in dentistry, let alone in leadership positions, he sought my opinion and treated me as an equal. And at my first nerve meeting, Eli showed me the ropes, keeping a watchful eye out to be sure that I was finding my way, introducing me to his friends and colleagues at the meeting, and generally looking out for my welfare. I know that many of you in the audience can also recall those times when Eli was there for you, quietly and thoughtfully making things a bit better, without fanfare or expectation of reward or recognition. The invitation says that we are here tonight to honor Eli for his selfless service to dentistry. Eli, thank you for being a beacon for us to follow, for your integrity, your keen intellect, and most of all, your kind and generous heart. I am a much better person for knowing you. We are all much better people for having known and served with you. Congratulations and thank you.
Before I say a few words about Dr. Stavisky, Dr. Mary Sawatsky asked if she can come up and speak a little bit about what Dr. Stavisky has meant to the medical community. Mary is the Chief Medical Officer for Moses Taylor Hospital. She's also a phenomenal emergency room physician. So she was on the board with Dr. Stavisky at Moses Taylor for many years. So, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Eli and I have had such a connection for the last 25 years when he was such a mentor and friend and colleague to the medical staff of this community. I'm also a Temple grad. I made the mistake of going to the medical school. Sorry for all the dentists in the community here. I would be remiss if you did not know in the dental world how much he meant to our medical community. He was a member of the Moses Taylor medical staff for many years, chair of our credentials committee, which he left to me to follow him, and I would never be able to do that without your great mentorship and everything you did. So it would be really remiss if we didn't tell you how important he was. When I told some of the members of the medical staff today where I would be this evening, they were so enthusiastic. Henry Yeager said to me, there's no one better to honor as a member of our medical community that would promote the health and welfare of this Lackawanna County and even the surrounding counties. And you need to know that we are so proud that you worked with us. We miss you dearly. We're so happy for you. I told my husband tonight, I was remiss, I forgot to bring a plaque that we had for him from the medical community. But this you need to know, what you meant to the medical community at Moses Taylor Hospital. Moses Taylor now has a foundation that was born out of the sale of the hospital to community health systems. So we have a foundation which is dedicated to the health and welfare of the northeastern Pennsylvania patients. And this year, our first year of giving grants, we dedicated that to our dental patients. Out of the inspiration that you gave us, we were able to fund $497,000 this year to dental services for the patients in Lackawanna County. And it was really from the inspiration of Dr. Stavisky that we decided to do that we said that dental care was just as important as all the medical care that we provided to patients, whether it was endocrinology or rheumatology or internal medicine. You inspired us that dental care is primary when it comes to the health and welfare. And so that is our tribute to you, and we will continue to do that in tribute to you. And we thank you very, very much. There's many members here of the medical staff that are here to honor you. You are a friend, a colleague, and we love the fact that you brought us together. Dentists and physicians, medical physicians, taking care of the patients in our community. So we wanted to thank you for that. Thank you.
Now it's my turn. When we decided to have this dinner tonight, I really stressed about what I was gonna say. I'm not gonna say that much, and I'm not really a write it down kind of guy, because I feel like I would forget something to him. So I feel like I'm just gonna speak with from the heart how I feel, and I hope that's enough. It's very weird how I met him so many years ago. And if you read his curriculum vitae, which is, Jesus, like 19 pages long, front and back, it's a novel. It says a lot of things. But what it doesn't say is how many people, how many students, such as myself and other dentists in the room, that he has helped become what we are today. He's so many qualities that people strive for, but they can never reach. And one of the ones I admire him the most is he sees the best in everybody, no matter, even if you don't see it in yourself. He says you could do this, you could get better, you could be a dentist, you could be an oral surgeon, even if you're from Peckville, a couple hundred yards away. You don't really think too highly of yourself, but he had that, and he notices and he sees something in you, and it's amazing, and I appreciate it. Everybody here owes you a lot, maybe me more than most, but thank you for all you've done for us, for dentistry, for everything. And this dinner is just a small token of our appreciation for you. And it's minute in my appreciation for you. I love him like a father. He knows it. Probably everyone else does. But as a small token, we would like to give him this plaque from the Scranton District Dental Society. It just says, we appreciate him for all of his many years of service and dedication to the field of dentistry. I would also want to thank his wife, his kids, for letting him come to all these meetings and letting him meet with all of us and do what he has done throughout these years. I mean, we can never thank you enough for what you've done. So our last remarks are from why we're all here, Eli Stavisky.
Wow, what could I say? Thank you, Scranton District Dental Society, for sponsoring this affair. I am very humbled, grateful, and appreciative. I'm at a loss for words for all you have done for me. This past winter, my wife and I were in Florida, and the mail arrived, and my wife picked it up, and there was a Scranton District Dental Society bulletin, and in this bulletin it said, save this date, September the 9th, we're going to honor Eli Stavisky, and we didn't know anything about it. So she asked me, what is this all about? I said, I don't have any idea. So I made some calls, and he says, you just show up on September 9th, and that's all you have to know about it. Maybe 35, 40 years ago, we hired a nurse from Moses Taylor to work in our recovery room. Her name was Olivia Clark. Many of you may know her. Olivia worked in the recovery room for a short period of time, 2-3 years, I don't know. But she came up to me one day and asked if I would take a peek at her aunt who had some dental problems. And I know she was very close with her aunt. So I said, sure, bring her in. She did, and she needed an extraction, which I did. So Olivia was a wonderful employee, was there a short time, but certainly this was part of her family, and I didn't charge her for anything. So she was so very grateful for that. 2 weeks later, Olivia brings to work 2 big bags of homemade pasta, like you've never tasted or had before. Absolutely wonderful. And she thanked me again, and Olivia thanked me. 2 weeks later, 2 more bags of pasta arrived. And 2 weeks later, 2 more bags of pasta arrived. This went on, believe me, for 20 years. I received 2 bags of the most delicious homemade pasta you'd ever want to taste. This, to me, is an analogy of what serving on boards, doing exams, means. You put a little bit effort into something and you get an awful lot back. Taking out someone's tooth and receiving pasta for 20 years is a good example of that. I would like to thank a few people who spoke here tonight and just tell you my relationship with them. I'm going to be hopefully very short with that. First, our Toastmaster, Justin. Justin arrived in the office. He wanted to go to dental school. He worked for us for 2 years, I believe. Took courses at the University of Scranton, worked in our restaurant, was a bartender, and applied to dental school. Did very well, did his residency at Jefferson, and came back and joined our practice. Justin has been most appreciative. I get a call once or twice a week from Justin asking me, how am I doing? How do I feel? Is there anything I could do for you? And this is going on for years. Justin treats me like I were his father, always wondering how I'm doing, how I'm getting along. And Justin, I appreciate that, and thank you very much. Also, Erica, thank you very much also. Al Lorenzi, as you heard, has been my partner since 1975. Not only in the practice of dentistry, but we became owners of a restaurant. And we were partners in that, along with Skip Rebar. Al also was a partner of a condominium that we had in Florida. He's no longer in with us, but I've been partners with Al for many years and in many different endeavors. And through all of this, we were always good friends. We treated each other and our families like families, and they were part of ours and we were part of theirs. And thank you, Diana and Mark, who isn't here, and Christina, because they were part of our family also. And thank you, Al. Rich Caputo, what could I say? 50 years of great friendship. And I'm going to tell you how one day I realized how good of a friend I really was with Rich. He was being vetted for the federal judgeship. And I don't know if it was the Secret Service or the FBI, but I was interviewed for Rich. And one of the agents asked me, you know this person, have you ever gone on vacation with them? And I thought about that for a second or two, and I said, I certainly have. He said, well, how often? I said, maybe 40 different times in our life. We played golf, we went on golf vacations, and we were just very close. I think then that agent decided that I do know Rich, and he was going to listen a little bit to what I said. And thank you, Rosemary and Rich, for always being there, being good friends. Polly and I really appreciate it. Archbishop Duhulich, a special, special person. Thank you very much for being part of my life, for being a teacher, a friend, a mentor. This is back to the story with the pasta. I gave so little to the seminary and had such wonderful experiences. You associate with the present Board of Trustees. You are associated with the administration. You are associated with the staff. You are associated with the seminarians. And in St. Tikhon's case, you are associated with the monastic community. And one could never, ever understand what I derived from that. And I appreciate it so very much. And thank you, Bishop Michael. Dr. Ismail came to Temple, and as I told him this evening, works 25 hours a day. I mean, he is just something special about the amount of work he put in. And yes, he has taken Temple to newer and greater heights. He improved the faculty. He got world-class faculty in there. He improved the facility. It was starting to show wear, and he redid it. And he brought many, many innovative changes. We have a clinic that has medical and dental in it. And this is the only dental school in the country that has both a medical and dental clinic in one clinic. And that's some of the forward thinking of Dean Ismail. I thank you very much for the time I spent on the board. I thank you for sharing your knowledge and your dedication to Temple. Thank you, Dean. Camille. Camille is the CEO of Pennsylvania Dental Association. Like the medical or any other association, every year we change presidents. Every 3 years we change board of trustees totally. Every year a new group is coming in. And all these groups think they know all the answers and have all these solutions solved. Someone has to hold that organization or any organization like that together. And they can't be forceful. And she wasn't or isn't. And she holds the organization together very well and makes you think you're giving your ideas, but she will stop and say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. This is what we did 10 years ago. This is what we did 2 years ago. We have a precedent here. We follow it for this reason, and we almost always listen to her. And thank you, Camille, for holding the organization together. As Linda said, we have careers that sort of parallel each other. I was on the board when Linda joined us, and we also were very active in Pennsylvania Dental Association. We were delegates to the American Dental Association. We did an awful lot together. We examined. We were at the Northeast Regional Board meetings, and her career, not that it was the same, but sort of paralleled mine. And thank you, Linda, for speaking and saying such nice words. I would like to pay tribute to my mom and dad. I was born in Old Forge, lived there with my sister. We grew up rather poor. We lived on a street that was unpaved, and every time a car went by, it was a dust bowl, full of potholes and dust. In the summer, the borough would come along and put some oil on the street. And for the next several weeks, we had oil on our clothes, in the house, and everywhere. We didn't have a street light on the street we lived. The house we lived in, and it was our home, had no central heat. We had a coal stove in the kitchen, and that was the source of our heat, it was the source of cooking. The house didn't have any hot water. We had a big copper tub behind the coal stove, which we filled with water, and we used it for cleaning, clothes, everything, and including our baths. We didn't have any indoor plumbing facilities. We had an outhouse next to the house that we lived in. And we had a chicken coop next to the house where we would get our eggs every morning and an occasional Sunday dinner. But we didn't know we were poor. We thought we were wealthy. And this was because of my parents. They gave us absolute unconditional love. They taught us never ever to accept defeat. And they wanted us to become educated so we could have something more than what they had. They gave us a faith in God and a very nice religion for us to follow in the Russian Orthodox Church. What more could I have expected from my parents? Absolute unconditional love, the ability never to fail, and to be given a wonderful religion and a faith in God. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I'd like to recognize a few people that aren't here, but I feel remiss if I didn't mention their names. Mike Smyrney, my partner, when I came back to Scranton. Mike is not here tonight because of his illness. I'd like to pay tribute to Nick Ciccone, who was a mentor of mine. Nick always told me, and some other people, that we were the sons that he never had. He was a mentor of mine, and I love Nick Ciccone. Thank you to my office, Chris Kochik, Mark Gellorenzi, and Justin. I stop in the office, use the facility, have the girls do what I need to, take a cup of coffee, tell them what they're doing wrong, and leave. So it works out very nice. For those of you who aren't dentists, I want to say just a little bit. Dentistry is a very, very difficult profession. Just imagine working in a space like that. Very confined space. If Gino or Jay need a bigger space to work in, they make their incision longer and are able to get in there. We can't do that in the mouth. What we have in the mouth, besides very limited access, is an area that's totally dark, and it's very difficult to get light in there. We have a mouth that has saliva, so we're always fighting moisture. And then we have this big old tongue in our way that we're always fighting. So dentistry is very difficult. And I would like to pay tribute to two people here that have practiced 50 years and are still practicing. Pete Pavick and Angelo Costanzo. Thank you, Jack, for your words at the beginning of the program. Jack is currently the chair of the State Board of Dentistry, and I know how difficult that job could be at times. And thank you, Matt Sale, for serving as 3rd District Trustee from our area. I'd like to recognize Judge Sherry, Camille's husband, from Harrisburg. I've got to know Judge over the last couple of years, and he's a wonderful, wonderful person. And thank you, Cindy Cox and Laney from our office, see, I say our, for all the work they've done to make this a success. I'd like to recognize and thank one of my good friends, Gino Mori, who's here with his friend Kathleen Graff. Gino stopped by my house this morning and he gave me something. Since Gino retired as a general surgeon, he probably accumulated 160 credits, college credits, for the love of education and learning. And he teaches at the medical school, I think at surgical anatomy, and he attends the medical school. And his interests are varied, and he made a painting 100%, which I don't fully understand, on the computer. He drew it on the computer and had a computer printout. And I was amazed by how this is done. And it was a portrait of a peach that Gino bought. It was sitting on the table. And Gino went ahead and did all of this on the computer, both drew it and printed it. And I'd like to show you what it looks like. And that's something that Gino Mori did and brought to my house today. And on the back, Gino wrote, "To Eli, a peach of a guy." Gino. Thank you, Gino. I'd like to thank my sister, Jean, and my brother-in-law, Hugo. They've been absolutely wonderful sister and brother-in-law. I mean, they've been supportive of me for my entire life. They've been so kind and generous. They keep the family together. They had Gino to all our holiday meals, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever it was. And they kept the family together, and that's wonderful. And we appreciate it. And thank you, Jean and Hugo. You've been really, really wonderful to us and to the family. Now for my two daughters. Tanya, who's an orthodontist in South Jersey, finished school in orthodontics and somehow became involved on a national level in the organization, AAO, I believe it's called. And she was chair of the Young Orthodontic Committee and several other committees, and was working her way to leadership on a national level when three guys got in the way. And she decided that her family was more important, and she had to put the duties of the Orthodontic Society on a shelf, I hope temporarily, while she raised her family. She works full-time and does a wonderful job. Her husband, Dan, is with us tonight. Dan is an executive for Vynamics Consulting. I don't know what that is. If it's not dentistry, I don't know. And I'm a little biased, but I have three of the most handsome, talented, smart grandsons. Andrew, named after my dad, and Ryan and Alexander. And we have Elena. Elena is a pediatric dentist who practices in South Jersey. Elena does something that I am so very proud of. She treats an awful lot of special needs people. And she's very busy. She's booked up until December, whatever it is, but yet she makes time for special needs people. And I'm very, very proud of her for doing that. Besides taking care of the special needs, she also takes care of the poor people. She takes care of people who are on welfare, and that's not as common as one would think. And she treats all the welfare people that she could. And she has, again, I'm not biased, two of the most beautiful daughters that I could ever have imagined, Chloe and Kaylin. Her husband, Mark, and I'll read this, Mark, because again, I don't know what it is. He's Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications and Investor Relations with Impacts Laboratory. So, what they do, I'm not sure. And now the star of the evening, my wife, Paula. Paula and I were married in 1962. I was a sophomore in dental school, and she put up with me for 3 years in dental school. We then spent 2 years in the Air Force station in Plattsburgh, where I was fortunate enough to meet the Caputos. After that, I went and did my residency in oral surgery, and she put up with me for another several years. When we came back, we had 3 wonderful daughters, and I always thought my job was to go to work and play golf after work. And Paula took care of the children, raised them like I couldn't believe, and I give her all the credit for raising the children. In my generation, we didn't do like the young generation males do today. And she did it on her own. And I thank you for it, Paul. She spent all the time taking complaints from the girls when they were in college, dental school, residency, and there were many, I'm sure, and she listened to all their complaints and put them through all the years of school. And I told Dean Ismail one time that perhaps with doing my education and the 3 girls, maybe she should be in line for an honorary doctorate. But Paul, I love you. Thank you for everything. Please stand up and be recognized. Thank you again, Scranton District Dental Society. Thank you everyone for coming, and I enjoyed seeing all of you, and thank you.
That concludes everything for this evening. Thank you everyone for coming. It was a wonderful evening to honor a wonderful man. Thank you very much. Travel safe. Thank you.